Hello, and welcome to another video. This video we're playing some Tactics Vanguard. Don't usually end up playing this class, or as character more so. Mostly because it takes forever to get matches on this character. I don't have a crazy amount of games, but its win rate, I believe it was like 70 something. 77%, something like that, something crazy. My queue times would be like extremely long. I know that obviously more than just win rate matters for like how the matchmaking metric works, but yeah, it's usually why you don't see videos on this character. There was a good little bit that I was using them a lot, but that was before the queue time really got really bad, or just felt like it was always lopsided, because it basically was. And you kind of see that at the end screen for my team. Also, by the way, that was Storm March and NG Burst. That stuff really hurt. I almost died. I assumed I would get guard because there's a tank right there, but you know, it happens, you know. Probably accidentally clicked it off. As for like getting into the match, damage overall is like the issue for our team. Like, sure, I'm able to pump, but doesn't really matter. There's nobody that's really a threat in this match, and because there's not really any threats in this match, the fact that my team can't do damage means that my team's essentially either one, not geared, two, inexperienced, or three, what do you call it, or just not even attempting to play the game. So with those three combinations, the contribution percentage that they're doing is very, very low. So that most likely means, you know, we're probably losing this no matter what. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, let's just have fun, kill people. One thing to think about is like, oh, I could try to play objective, but the problem is that eventually, if I make myself too much of a target, I will eventually just die. So I'm mostly just thinking about killing people that are killing me, and then kill other people, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. I'm pretty much safe that way. Now, if I'm trying to like cap or something like that, I'm going to have all the objectives and the people that I've been killing the entire time on me, and that's obviously a problem, so obviously I'm not going to do that. Now, if somebody else could cap, that would be great. There are definitely people that could do that, but they just choose not to. And these players are quote-unquote objective players too, so it's really confusing as to why they don't even bother. But to talk to you guys in this video, I wanted to talk about damage a little bit outside of, you know, like what I've already commentated. Damage is, in general, so high. It doesn't really matter what you're playing unless you're playing something very, very bad. So let's say you're playing Deception, pure single target, and you're not very good at it, or you don't really know how to team fight on it, right? That's probably not a class that's going to do too well, or you're probably not going to do too well on it for damage, right? That's completely fine. There's ways that you can play a team fight, Deception Assassin. It's doable. It's definitely a little bit harder than most of the DPS that you're going to play. Sometimes it's going to be really easy because you won't get hit, but other times, you know, it's a little different. And with that being said, there's obviously other classes that are like that, concealment and whatnot. These classes are a little bit better at holding the node and dueling and stuff like that, which, you know, you could take advantage of that, or you could just ignore that. It's totally fine. I don't really have a preference. Like, sure, in most situations, most classes should be able to guard, but there are situations where double sap and whatnot, you probably want to have a stealther. But if nobody cares about the objective, it's just like, why stress about it? It's not something you should really ultimately care about if nobody else cares about. Anyway, back to damage. With damage just basically being so high, you're able to team wipe with most classes in the game, if not, you know, in combination of other classes. Even if you're not like pushing good like max damage, you're still able to contribute a lot of damage. It's easier than ever to do damage. Like, you don't have to do your rotation correctly. You don't have to have your tactical or implant correct. You can kind of just wing it. As long as you're hitting buttons non-stop, you're most likely able to contribute a good enough amount of damage to help team wipe or team wipe yourself, depending on the class you're playing. I know that I talk about rotation a lot in some of my videos, and I'm talking about like how important it is. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, we don't need a rotation to PvP. Yeah, you don't need a rotation to PvP. But the reason why you would learn your rotation is to have muscle memory. And once you have that muscle memory, you can muscle memory into the rotation, which is optimally refined for the best damage that your class can do. So there's a reason why there's a rotation. And on top of that, when it comes to opener and most rotations, you are bursting as much as you can. So like your DPS peaks pretty much on most classes, the highest it's going to be. So learning your burst opener, your burst windows and stuff like that is very important, because in every warzone you pretty much should be trying to burst somebody down immediately. But also there's situations where that burst will come back up and you will want to use that on somebody. So just being able to muscle memory your burst, know when your burst is available and just what it is or how to do it without having to think too much, so you can focus on whether they popped a defensive, whether they popped a reflect, whether you need to CC them or they're broke and you can re-CC them. Stuff like that is very important. I know that like AP's opener is like 70 APM or 90 APM or something crazy like that, but it doesn't stay sustained. It's only because your shoulder cannon is a separate global cooldown to your other abilities. So in reality you're not actually hitting a crazy amount of buttons, but for a little bit it's definitely a little bit more than 40. It's also a couple different buttons that you'll probably be hitting in rapid succession while you're also just spamming shoulder cannon at the same time. Which, by the way, if you guys are ever curious, my num pad keys are always the basically mouse buttons. I don't actually hit my num pad. I don't think anybody thinks that I actually play that way, but it's just my mouse. So an ability like that you spam, I just put on number 2. So I can spam it on my mouse when I'm also hitting the other buttons, so I don't really have to awkwardly spam like 2 different buttons on my keyboard at the same time. That's not very efficient. But outside of learning your rotation, you learn your muscle memory. Muscle memory is huge for just general gameplay. It also allows you to keep your eyes center screen instead of looking at your buttons. So like what's available, what's next, do you have this, do you have that? Your rotation isn't like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like if you do stuff like that, it's just you're not really trying. Like you get the basics of it, but you're not really trying to refine it. Another thing is to think about too, when you have an ability slot and you're not actually using them. I know you'll see it on some other streams, but I've been doing this ever since like 2.0. I'm pretty sure it like originated in WoW, but taking a toolbar and putting it like in center screen in the middle, top of your health bar, to the right or the left. For me, I play BTO a lot, so I'm more used to the left side of my screen in the middle. But I used to have one in the top middle. There's some old videos from like 4.0 that have it. Most of those videos are unlisted at this point, but mostly because of bad quality. There's like 3 FPS, it's hard to watch. But that would be like something that you would do to make sure that you're using your buttons a little bit better. Like another thing too is like, you know, for slam spam. I know a lot of people that play slam spam that aren't actually using slam in space. English, God, absolutely butchering all my words. Other people don't use slam. For some reason I'm trying to say something else at the same time. My brain is not wrapping around it, but slam spam. People don't use vengeful slam as much as they could. And that's one thing that you could definitely put up there, and you can kind of see and track the CDR that you're actually getting for it. Because there are times where you can just use slam and only slam, and you don't need to use anything else, and also enrage. So when you're playing Vengeance, having enrage and slam spam or vengeful slam on there, that'd be very helpful, because then you're able to track both of those relatively quickly. And they have a relatively short cooldown when you're in cleave. And this is where we kind of just lose because we don't have no damage. It's unfortunate, but it's just how it goes. At any point, our team could have held their own, but it's just not how it goes. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will have another video hopefully soon.